1, 2, 3, 4. We're live streaming. I hope. I always start my live streams like this because I really have no way of knowing when the stream is actually I know when I started the stream, but I don't know when you guys have started seeing the stream. So anyway, we start like this. Maybe one of these days I'll get a really cool intro music and have a bumper. Yeah. Hello, everybody. I'm live streaming, and you're probably thinking to yourself, I didn't know Joshua was live streaming tonight. Well, you know what? I didn't either. I hate feeling pressured. I hate schedules. If you say, "Hey, can I take you to lunch tomorrow? I'm buying." I'll be like, I don't know. But if you say, "Hey, do you want to go to lunch right now?" I might say yes. I just don't like to feel pressure. And so sometimes I schedule live streams, but mostly I just, here I am. It's 8 o'clock. It's a Tuesday night. Is it Tuesday? 8:20. See, I'm not late. I'm just perfectly on time. In fact, arguably, a lot of the decisions I've made in my life have been based around the desire to avoid being obligated to be anywhere at any particular time. It's not that I don't like responsibility or doing things. It's just that I don't like being obligated to do them at a specific time. Hello, everybody. I see everybody in the chat. Hello. Oh, look at all of you. FPV on yeah, let's go to lunch right now. I don't know about a Florida tan. I think it's just the lighting in my room. I'm using the TBS LED whoop gates. They're mounted to the ceiling behind me. I'm using them for some blue accent lighting. Hello, Synthetic in Guam. Hello, everybody. And you guys I gotta figure out how I want to lay out my desktop. Here's the problem. I got 3 monitors here, which means if I put the chat over here, it really looks weird. It looks like I'm, but then if I put the chat right, anyway, it's first world problems. I have 3 monitors. Hey, what am I gonna do? Yes, it's a live stream, and actually, I have a confession to make. I'm doing this live stream actually because it's self-motivated. So I went to Florida to do quad camp, and anytime I leave town, I get totally discombobulated. I get out of schedule. When I come back, I just don't know how to get my back together. And I realized that the thing I need to do to take the pressure off of myself is to live stream more, which sounds kind of counterintuitive, you might think, because live streaming is a little bit of pressure. But here's the thing about live streaming. If I live stream for 2 hours tonight, I have made a ton of content. You guys love live streams. I don't have to edit a single video. And then I can just spend all of tomorrow doing work, actually. I have work I need to be doing. But it's not making videos. So here's actually what I'm thinking. I'm going to live stream tonight. And maybe I'll live stream tomorrow. In fact, maybe I'll just live stream like for a couple nights in a row while I get some other stuff done. And, I'll just keep doing that until I get tired of live streaming. Maybe then I'll be like totally burned out on it. I'll never do it again for 3 months. But for now, we're going to live stream. Tweak FPV, is the lag real? What kind of lag are you seeing? You seeing lag on the audio? What's lagging? We getting lag on the stream? Ooh, what's going on with my bit rate? Oh, hold on. You guys aren't kidding. What's going on with my bit rate? Wow. Hold on. Stream is great. It's a live stream channel. Hold on. Let me look into something. My bit rate is atrocious. Hold on, guys. I don't know what's going on here. 4,500. Why is... Oh, man. How about that? There's no reason why my bitrate should be bad. Let's take the bitrate down to maybe 4,000. Let's check it down to 3,500. Let's try that. Okay, I'm lowering my bitrate. I don't know what's going on with my bitrate. But, yeah, that's why we're just getting started. Looks good to me. I've changed the bitrate. My stream health shows good. I would say if you're lagging, maybe it's you. Stream is healthy. YouTube says the stream is healthy, but I'm taking my bit rate down so that hopefully it will be a little bit more tolerable, and we'll see if that makes it better. So, no, my internet is awesome. I have like 25 megabit per second upstream. So, yeah, anyway, we'll see if that fixes it. So, audio dropping out, lag still dropping. Let's see if it settles in. I took the. Now you should be getting a little bit. Oh, no, I'm reloading. There we go. Alrighty. So, glitching seems to be fixed. Okay. Yeah. So Glinny FPV, we will be, the DVR will be going up. So you don't have to watch it. You can watch it live. I love it if you watch it live. But the DVR will be going up later afterwards. Hopefully the lag is settled a little bit. I don't want to knock it down to 720p. Ooh, scary. Very bad. And I also see, no, Windows Update. And I got my OneDrive paused. Got my Google Drive paused. I don't know. Anyway, it should be good. So, anyway, we're gonna move on from the lag. I hope it's not. Yeah, the video and audio lagging. I don't know, man. YouTube says my stream is healthy. Says my bitrate is good. I'm gonna try one more thing. All right, you guys. I'm not gonna change the resolution. That's gonna really screw up the stream. Okay, I don't know. Down to 480 and lag. Wow. Okay. What else could it be? That's what you get for an impromptu live stream. Let me see if one of my other machines is OneDriving up. No. Oh, here we go. I'm going to remote desktop into my other machine and see if it's trying to... Oh, let's see if this fixes it. There we go. All right, I just killed OneDrive on my other machine. Let's see if that fixes it. Let's see if that fixes it. Hey Siri, fix the live stream. Okay. Wow. No, PC is not overloaded. No, see, look, guys, look. Hang on, this is gonna create some craziness. But look here, see, look, 5% CPU utilization. No, we're really good. We're just not doing a darn thing. Our FPS is solid. I'm seeing a few drop frames. Bitrate, my bitrate's all over the place though. Why is my bitrate dropping? It must be because I don't know. Okay, hang on. Let's 35. Let's go down to 3 megabits per second, and that's as low as we're going. I'm not going any lower. Oh, it's better. It was the OneDrive running in the background. Derek W says shutting down the porn videos in the background helped. No comment on that. No comment. Okay. Yeah, G. Rollison says your Hey Siri activated my iPhone. Yeah, here, watch all you guys out there. Okay, Google, call mom. Oh, see, my phone just went off. Okay. Well, I have so many windows because I'm live streaming. So here's what we're going to do. I am going to answer some questions. I'm going to just stream for a couple hours, and then I will have, I'll feel like I really served you guys. Sometimes I'm like, what kind of video should I make? What is the video that will most help people? And if I don't know the answer, I'll do a live stream. So, Alexa, turn off the lights. I just turned somebody's lights off. Okay, so there is a question coming in. Let's see. What's your thoughts on the Raceday quad transmitter? This question is coming in on Discord. I have a Discord for my patrons, and it says, what's your thoughts on the Raceday quads transmitter based on what Tyler posted? Let me just pop up a picture of that real quick so everybody's on the same page. Actually, it's probably only on Facebook, isn't it? I'm not actually sure if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it, though. Let's see. It's going to be not in Rotor Riot. It's going to be in Raceday Quads. Let's see if we can find that. Tyler posted it. There it is. So here, this is Raceday Quads is working on this. This is a transmitter. This is the sort of drawing of the prototype, expected release fall 2019 with a target price of $125. My thoughts are, to be honest with you, I mean, if anybody can pull off something like this, it's Raceday Quads. Raceday Quads has a pretty good history of OEMing good products. But it's, I mean, you got to see the final product before you make any decisions about what's going to be good, you know. So I have every confidence, though. Raceday Quads is very customer focused. If you look at the history of products that Raceday Quads has made, like, let's pick on the worst product that Raceday Quads made, which was when the Mach 2 video transmitter came out and Smart Audio had a bug and it didn't work. No, everyone would agree that the Mach 2, the release of the Mach 2 was a disaster. Then they fixed it and it was okay. But at that point, you know, Raceday Quads did everything they could to make right by their customers. They replaced them, and then they fixed it and they moved on. So this transmitter that Raceday Quads is going to come out with, I think it's going to be solid at the price point of $125. I think there's going to be better transmitters out there at higher price points, but that's kind of not the point. And if anything is wrong with it, Raceday Quads will fix it immediately and make it right. That's the thing about, that's why I chose to make my flight controller through Raceday Quads, which is that shit happens. We had the version 1.3 of the flight controller that had the 9-volt regulator that died. And that's just going to happen. You can't have perfection. But knowing that Raceday Quads will take care of people when shit happens, that's why I really stick by them. So, yeah, let me pull this chat window back to the center here. Do I know anything? Puck asks, do I know anything about the Tango 2? I do not know anything about the Tango 2. Trappy won't give me any real secrets about that. Jugsy asks, hey JB, after other questions, could we get a brief rundown of what Iterm rotation is? Iterm rotation is a Betaflight feature that is and I'll tell you the truth, I don't 100% know what it is. But here's what I know about Iterm rotation. Iterm rotation is mostly useful if you're doing a lot of line of sight moves like funnels. Like funnels where you're just going, and when you're doing those moves with a lot of yaw axis rotation, the PID controller can get a little whacked out, and Iterm rotation fixes that. For FPV pilots, as opposed to line of sight pilots, Iterm rotation probably doesn't really matter. Javier Molina, and by the way, guys, questions are coming in hot and fast on the chat, so I will do my best to get as many of them as I can, but I obviously won't get all of them. I'll do my best. Thank you guys for being here. Hello, everybody. It's so good to see. How many have we got? How many have we got here? Let me check my stats. 313 watching now. Damn! Yes! 16 messages per minute. Okay. Will I ever offer my motors through Raceday Quads? So my motors are made by Lumineer, and they're sold on GetFPV exclusively. Lumineer has not in the past offered pilot-sponsored motors through their distributor channel. They sell exclusively on getfpv.com, and they actually sell now on Banggood, which let's talk about that for a second. So my motors and my flight controller are on Banggood, and that is not a coordinated thing. My flight controller is sold by Raceday Quads. My motors are sold by GetFPV, and both of those vendors independently made the decision to offer some product on Banggood. And the reason for that is that shipping from the United States is awful. It's expensive. If you live in the United States, you have no idea how good you have it. If you live in Europe and you try and buy anything from Raceday Quads or GetFPV, shipping is $15 minimum, sometimes more like $25 or $30. That's just how the world works. I don't know why. So by selling on Banggood, these products are now available to people out in places where they couldn't otherwise get them. And people inside the U.S. have a little bit of a privilege. We can shop from great vendors like Raceday Quads, Pyroflip, GetFPV, the new Rotorite store, which is now super awesome now that it's backed by Raceday Quads. Wasn't quite as awesome as it could have been. We are super privileged in that we can do that. And we have the option of buying from Banggood or Alibaba or GearBest if we want to, but we don't have to. But there's a lot of people the world over who basically the only way they can get reasonably priced shipping is to order from those companies. And that's why companies like GetFPV and Raceday Quads have decided to selectively offer some products from Banggood. So What is my, let's see, let's focus on good questions. Why can't I see any sensors on my telemetry page? Asks D. Smith. I'm using F-port, but when I try to detect sensors, nothing shows up on the telemetry page. D. Smith, you're doing the right thing by going to the telemetry page in your Tyrannus and doing Discover Sensors, and that's where you want to see the sensors, the telemetry sensors coming from the receiver. Now, here's the thing about Discover Sensors. If the receiver is telemetry capable and bound in telemetry mode, you will always see the RSSI sensor, and I think it's the RXBT, the RXBAT sensor. Sometimes you'll also see an A4 or an A2 sensor, depending on the receiver. Those sensors come from inside the receiver, and if you just power up the receiver with 5-volt power on the bench, you'll see those sensors. Okay, the additional sensors like the VFAST sensor, the ACCX, ACCY, ACCZ, GPS sensors, fuel, all of those sensors come from the flight controller, and those will only be visible in the telemetry screen if your telemetry is actually working in the flight controller. So there's a very useful troubleshooting tip with FreeSky, well, with any kind of telemetry really, not just FreeSky, and that is if you only see like the RSSI sensor, but you don't see VFAST, ACCX, ACCY, those sensors that come from the flight controller, that tells you that the flight controller is not configured right. But if you don't even see RSSI, that tells you that the receiver is not sending telemetry. That has nothing to do with the flight controller. So when you say that you don't even see the RSSI sensor, that tells you that the receiver is not sending telemetry at all back to the transmitter. So if you have an XM Plus receiver, FreeSky, that receiver doesn't do telemetry. That's your answer. If you have an RXSR receiver, which does do telemetry, but you bind it, and when you bind it, you choose telemetry off, you're not going to see telemetry. So those are some ways to troubleshoot telemetry. There you go. Derek W. says, I set up my Betaflight with GPS per your instructions. It works, but, scrolled off the screen. It works, but as the quad is returning home, it seems the throttle goes up and down a lot. Any clues? No, that's normal. It's not supposed to be that way, but that's absolutely normal. The surging motors, yeah. What you can do is there are PID parameters related to the GPS that you can try to tweak. I'm not sure if I have Betaflight 4.0 on this flight controller. Let's see if we can find hold on one second. So if I go here and connect, I'm not hearing anybody complaining about the stream, so I guess the stream is pretty solid. That's good. I don't know what's going on there. Bitrate is down at 1800. Sheesh. Okay, so if I go to the CLI and I type get GPS, and what I'm looking for is, here we go, GPS rescue throttle P, GPS rescue throttle I, GPS rescue throttle D. This is a P, an I, and a D gain for a PID controller that is controlling the throttle value. And I think what you would probably want to do is try to tune that like you would your quadcopter. So for example, if you're seeing surging and oscillation, maybe what you need to do is reduce GPS rescue throttle P or raise GPS rescue throttle D. I'm not sure about that. There can also be an issue with the GPS rescue angle. So one of the parameters in GPS rescue is the GPS rescue angle, which is how much the quad will pitch over as it tries to return home. And if the GPS rescue angle is very steep, the quad can have a lot of trouble managing its altitude. So you could try reducing the GPS rescue angle, or you could try tuning the GPS rescue throttle P, I, and D gain. There you go. FPV Droney asks, when I arm my quad and disarm and arm again, I can see my OSD info screen slowly fades away on my goggles. That is the latency of your goggle display. I've seen this before. If the OSD is on, the pixels kind of get stuck just a little bit, and then when the OSD goes away. So that's nothing to do with your flight controller. It's just your goggle screen. So don't worry about that, FPV Droney. How much flying have I done on Betaflight 4.0? Asks Joe Mama. Is it a hard recommend in your opinion, considering it's only just now in release candidate? Joe Mama, I have been super impressed with Betaflight 4.0. I think Betaflight 4.0 represents some of the biggest improvement in flight characteristics in Betaflight's history. I know that's a big claim, but I really feel it's true. Whether you realize that will depend a lot on what you're flying. When I fly my JB Perfect Freestyle build with the 2407 motors, I don't notice as big a difference. In fact, I tried it on 4.0, and just by the luck of the draw, Betaflight 4.0, the nightly build I happened to flash was it wasn't great for me at that time. This was a while back. And so I was like, all right, screw it. I'll just go back to 356. And it's flying fantastic. But I feel like that quad flies fantastic almost on anything because I've used like really high torque motors and really clean builds. So I think if you're flying less of a kind of a ultimate high-end build, you will notice a much bigger difference on Betaflight 4.0. Some of the things Betaflight 4.0 brings to the table are, number one, the low-pass filters are dynamic now. So you may be familiar with the dynamic notch, but the low-pass filters are dynamic so that when the throttle goes down, the low-pass filter drops and is more filtering. When the throttle goes up, the low-pass filter rises and you get less latency. That alone really impressed me with what a difference it made compared to 3.5 on a noisy build. But now with the RPM filter, there's potential for even better handling, and it's just really, I think 4.0, I've been flying 4.0 on many of my builds since it was nightlies. Just the first time I tried it, I was like, holy crap, this is good. I want this on all my quads. So I would definitely, the release candidates are relatively stable. They're relatively safe. It is still an RC and it could still have a bug, but they don't release it for RC unless they're fairly confident it's pretty much ready to go. Let's see. Oh my God, so many questions. This is, I can't even keep up. This is great. Let's see. DiMeo asks, stick low threshold, stick high threshold, and center stick. What are those in the receiver tab? I love a question like this. This is a real bread and butter question. So let's jump over to Betaflight and connect. Hello. No? Are we going to connect? Am I going to need to power cycle this thing? Okay, hold on. Any minute now. There we go. Any minute. There we go. Oh, waiting for USB to connect. This is the most exciting live stream ever. There we go. In the receiver tab, stick low threshold, stick high threshold, and stick center. What are those things? So, the stick low and the stick high threshold tell the flight controller when the stick is entering a stick command when it is low or high. So the number one way that the stick low threshold is used is to determine if the throttle is all the way down, which the quad will refuse to arm if the throttle is not all the way down. So stick low threshold will prevent you from arming if the stick is raised above the stick low threshold. It needs to be all the way down. And that's the number one thing that I tune on a new build. What you want to do is you want to set the stick end points to 1000 and 2000, and then you can set your stick low threshold to just a little bit more than that. The stick high threshold is used when entering stick commands. That's also where the stick low threshold. So when you push pitch forward to get to the OSD, the stick has to exceed the stick high threshold in order for it to register as a stick forward stick command. So that's what those are for. And then stick center is used to determine where the center is. The default is 1500, but if you had some transmitters, I think Spectrum defaults to 1520. I'm not sure why. So some transmitters don't use 1500 as their center position. And if that was the case, you could use sub-trims to adjust the center position in the transmitter, or you could just adjust the stick center in Betaflight. That's up to you. Oh my goodness. Stephen Lawrence asks, Is it true that you want PIDs as low as you can get them? No. No. I disagree with that. I think that you want PIDs. If I had to pick high PIDs or low PIDs, I would pick high PIDs. I would want the PIDs as high as possible without causing negative effects. Because a high machine will feel like taut and sharp. A low machine will feel sloppy. But obviously what you really want is, right in the middle. You want them high enough. Yeah. That's maybe how I would put it. I want them high enough, but not too high. Right? There you go. Okay. That's a great answer, right? D. Smith asks, can I do a video tutorial on setting up the R9 module with the R9mm receiver on the Tyrannus? Well, I have an R9 setup video that should show how to do that. The thing about the R9mm receiver is it's exactly like any other S-Bus or SmartPort receiver, so wiring it up is actually not that different. As far as setting up the module, it's not that different from binding a regular FreeSky receiver. It's just built in. But I should have a video. Hang on. I should have a video. Yeah, so... Well... Do I not have an R9 setup video? I think I don't. I have a video on flashing FreeSky R9. I don't have an R9 setup video. How about that? Well, I'll keep that in mind. Here we go. Here's what I'm going to do. Hang on. Let's see. Here in my videos. There we go. So now I got a to-do marker right there. Okay. So we'll put that on the list. Russell Tucker asks, hi Joshua, I'm wanting to get started in FPV. What goggles do you recommend for a beginner? On a budget, I'm a big fan of the EV800D goggles. They are not going to impress anybody with how sweet and sexy and cool they are, but they are really solid, good quality, good image quality. They're kind of big. What are you going to do? But that's where I would say you should put your money. The next one that I would have you consider is the Fat Shark Recon V2. You're paying a little bit of a premium for the Fat Shark name and quality, but the Recon V2 is a pretty solid goggle at a decent price. The other one I would suggest you look at is the FXT Viper, which is especially good. The Viper is especially good if you have glasses because it sits in front of your face. It doesn't sit up against your face. So those are three I would suggest. If you're looking to actually get Fat Shark goggles, Fat Shark style goggles instead of box goggles, the cheapest one I would probably suggest is the EV200D. Fat Shark has actually sort of vacated the $300 price point. You used to be able to get the Dominator V3, not the Dominator HD3, but the Dom V3, and it was a 16:9 goggle, which is not perfect for everybody, but it was a pretty solid goggle, and it was a Fat Shark, and they just stopped selling them. So Fat Shark basically, the cheapest you can get into a Fat Shark now appears to be like the Dominator V3 at like $400, which leaves a big gap. So EV200D, or the other one to think about is the Amway Commander V1, although the Commander V1 being I think it's a 16:9, so that maybe isn't my favorite. James Fisher asks, will Betaflight 4... So I know I rattled a bunch of those off. By the way, can I remind you that you can go to the... Hang on. Wow, I got a lot of windows. I opened a bunch of windows before the live stream in preparation for this. But I thought you guys have plenty of questions. So I thought, oh, what if nobody shows up for my live stream and I have to just have something to talk about? Can I remind you that I have a website, fpvknowitall.com/ultimate FPV shopping list right here, pasted in there, and you can check this out, including the best FPV equipment, in which I have recommendations for goggles. So if you want to use that, that's where I keep that up to date. And by the way, I should mention, some people have asked, hey, are you keeping this up to date? And the answer is yes. In fact, I've started putting an update date on each of the pages so that people can know I'm keeping it up to date. I'm constantly updating this with new products. I just don't rush to stick the latest and greatest products on there because I feel like that's not the best way to provide service to you guys. The best goggle today, when a new goggle comes out, if it's super awesome and the best thing ever, I'm going to wait a month or two before I put it on the list just to make sure that it's like good. So. Rothgar Wrecker in the Discord asks, did you see UAV Tech's latest video on the RPM filter and his feedback on your video about it? I did not. Let's see what UAV Tech had to say about my video. Let's see. RPM notch settings. Which is the one where he gave feedback on my... Can anybody tell me which one it was? Let's see. I don't want to watch. So my he's got like 20-minute long videos, so I don't want to. I don't want to waste a lot of time watching a whole video, as opposed to just focusing on. So somebody tell me which of his videos he talked about me. We'll take a look at that maybe. Let's see. Would I recommend the new Blaster Flyhard motors for racing? Or are they more aimed at freestyle? Chaos, they're fine for racing or freestyle. Alex Vanover races on Hype Train freestyle motors. So, I mean, at the end of the day, the pilot's going to make more of a difference than the motor. The thing about the blasters is if you plan to break a lot of motors, the more motors you break and the more times you get them replaced, the more economical they are. If you fly the same motors for a year, don't buy the blasters. That's not economical. So, but they're fine. If you have to ask that question, then probably, you know, the advantages of like a really expensive high-end racing motor, probably, yeah, if you're considering the blasters, then you should probably go ahead and get them because you're probably not like up here buying super expensive motors. Can gyro Tonio 9606 asks, can the gyro PID frequency and ESC motor protocol possibly introduce noise to the gyro and the cam? Yeah. I mean, the motors are spinning, and anything that affects the motors spinning can introduce noise and vibration. So I wouldn't so much expect the PID frequency to be like causing vibration, but yeah, it's possible. I could see it. The motor protocol, like D-Shot 600 or 1200, maybe. Brent McNeely, any way to calibrate the current sensor in the JB4-in-1? Yes, you can calibrate the current sensor in all BL Heli 32 ESCs. You do it in BL Heli Suite. That's how you do it. Open BL Heli Suite, and it's there. You can see it in my BL Heli 100% Explained series where I talk about that. I'm going to pause 1 second. There are some super chats coming in. Wow, very generous super chats. $5, $5, $5, $10, $10. I want to make sure there's any questions that are actually coming in. Most people are just saying, give me some love. Thanks for your support. Yeah. No questions. Oh, just free money. Thanks. Thank you guys. Thank you guys very much. Albert Kim is here. Yo, Albert Kim. Albert Kim, super respect. How much difference do you think, Guillermo asks, how much difference do you think a regular pilot can notice from a very old version of Betaflight and the newest version with a very old FC and a new FC? Well, I think we all are aware of that video that Kebab did where he took a Naze 32 F1, he put an old version of Betaflight on it, he flew it, and it was wonderful. It's definitely possible to build a good flying quad with old gear. However, I think that the newer firmware and the newer flight controllers have a wider tuning envelope where you get more people get a better experience. So if you take the best motors and a great frame, then you're just going to end up with a great flying quad even on an F1. But for people just buying like crappy Racer Star motors or Samguk motors and a weird Gep RC frame off of Banggood, those people may benefit more from a better flight control software. And I think that's the difference there. Pardon me. Thoughts on the Armatan Marmot? Yes, I want one. That's what I think about the Armatan Marmot. Armatan Marmot. For those of you who have been living under a rock, here's the Armatan Marmot. or Marmot, as the case may be. The big thing about the Armatan Marmot, it's very much like a Chameleon or a Chameleon TI, but the front end is different. And what I love about the front end is that, let's see if I can get this picture open in a new tab. Yeah, there we go. Streaming magic. What I love about this is, number one is the angle is adjustable. So you see you got 1, 2, 3 screws here, and they allow you to adjust and tweak the angle. So if you don't like that default GoPro angle, you can set the angle of the front end to whatever you want. And the FPV camera is not directly mounted in the titanium front end. Rather, it is mounted on these metal brackets. And the reason is that when the camera is mounted in the front end, it's so stiff that the camera case breaks a lot. So these give a little bit of flex and give the camera just a little more durability and flexibility. The other nice thing about this is that if you like to fly with low up tilt, on the Chameleon TI, the Rooster, you could not take the camera down below about 25 degrees. Whereas on this one, the camera can be at whatever angle your GoPro is at. Stephen Matthews comments, screw access looks difficult. That's a good point, Stephen. I wonder how Armatan plans to deal with that. I mean, I suppose you can kind of come in at an angle. I don't know. That's a good point. How are you going to get in there? Interesting. That has bugged me before. The screws on the front end of the Chameleon TI are, you have to come in at a little bit of an angle depending on your motors. So I'm sure Armatan has thought of that, but yeah. But I'm super excited about this. I love the Chameleon TI. It's my favorite freestyle frame right now. But the fact that the front end is designed for a full-size camera when we're all using micro cameras has always bugged me. I just use a bracket adapter, but it looks really janky. So, Storm Westcott, hey Josh, when are you going to make a hype train motor? I don't know about that. I don't have a specific plan to do that. I'm making motors right now with Lumineer and Get FPV. That's probably going to continue for a while. And I'm not really interested in just cranking out products for the sake of cranking them out or for the sake of putting my name on them if I don't have something specific to offer. I will tell you, though, that where did it go? I've lost it. Wow. Well, that's embarrassing. For real. Where's this box? Damn. Well, okay. I don't have it for you guys. So there you go. I was going to show you. I just got in the mail the 1750 kV, the 6S wind of my motor has just come out. It's available on Get FPV right now. 24 the 1750 kV version of my motor. So if you like my motor, but you've been wanting it in 6S, boom, now you can. 1750 kV. So I was going to show you that, but I can't find the box they came in. So Chris Quad says about the Marmot, too many moving parts, too many different materials. When are frame designers going to learn? Less is more. I do think you're right about that to some degree, Chris Quad. I really do think Armatan is onto something good with the metal front end, though. The front end of the Chameleon and the Rooster is just absolutely bulletproof. It cannot be broken. I mean, nothing's unbreakable, but so I really like the metal front end. I don't want to go back to a carbon fiber front end. I feel like the durability is really there. Maybe the adjustable flex on the Marmot is going to be a little weird. I don't know, but yeah. Let's see. Will I be at Flight Fest East 2019? Don't know about that. Can I talk more about NeuroFlight? Asks Ethan Johnson. Well, funny you mention that, Ethan Johnson, because, well, I have too many windows open. Wow. I can't find the actual window that I'm looking for now. Hang on. Nope, hold on. I'm going to get you this email that I'm looking for. I opened up a bunch of emails in preparation for the live stream, and then now I have so many open that I can't find them. So here we go. This is an email from Will Koch. My name is Will Koch. I'm the creator of NeuroFlight. That's not what I was really wanting to do. Hold on here. Pop out. There we go. And maximize and zoom in. There we go. See, I got you guys. My name is Will Koch. I'm the creator of NeuroFlight, which is a product of my PhD thesis at Boston University. Since I got started in the hobby, I've watched your videos, so it's an absolute pleasure to talk with you. I was just notified your video, wanted to reach out. I noticed in the comments of your video, you linked to Drone Mesh's video. I've been talking with Drone Mesh since he found out about our project. I think it's great, the passion and interest he has in the project. However, not all the information and his understanding of the project is correct, so linking to his video is spreading inaccurate information. Oops. I posted a video summarizing the current project. I highly suggest you viewing it so you can understand the current state of the project. Here it is. Now,
hey everyone.
I am not
My name is Will Koch.
To sit through 49 minutes of this while you guys watch on the live stream. But I will paste this into the chat. Here's the chat. I will paste this into the chat so you guys can check that out if you want. And I actually should really go back and do my NeuroFlight video and modify it to have the link there. Yeah, what do I think about NeuroFlight? Well, I think that Drone Mesh's videos are stirring up a lot of excitement about NeuroFlight, but I don't think it's like, ooh, this is just about to replace our PID controller any moment now. As William Koch says, it's his PhD thesis. That doesn't actually mean it has any applicability to the real world. It just means that it seemed like a fun thing for him to work on, and he did. So, okay. Let's see here. Francois Geldenhuys says, any advice on my drone not hovering level? It's always swaying in some direction. Get good. That's the answer. It's never going to hover level. You have to just fly it all the time. So it's going to drift and you're going to correct, and it's going to drift and you're going to correct. That's how it works. Mr. Tux asks, what's the difference between clean flight and beta flight? Why would anyone fly a clean flight? Oh, I see that. Okay, hang on. I don't know about that. If you fly the SP Racing F7, that's the Clean Flight flight controller from Dominic Clifton, then I believe that Clean Flight is the only one that supports sensor fusion for the dual gyros. But other than that, I'm not sure why you would choose to do that. So, Eric Rhodes gives $10 in the super chat and asks, have you seen the new Drone Nation app, a new social app with some different features for pilots? Listen, Eric Rhodes, I'm going to guess that you're associated with Drone Nation. And since you paid $10 to get your app mentioned on the stream, it's cheap, by the way, I'm going to mention it on the stream. Here's the new Drone Nation app. Allows new pilots to find someone learned from. No, I have not seen it. It's got a 4.9 rating, so that's good. And how many users has it got? How many users? Has it got a list for how many users? I don't see the number of downloads. We got number of downloads. Ooh, 100 plus downloads. Well, that's the challenge with the social media app, is you have to reach critical mass. But maybe after mentioning it here on the stream, the Drone Nation app will pick up some steam, and we'll see about that. Yeah, what about the iFlight F7 with dual gyros? Albert Kim, does the iFlight F7 also use sensor fusion, and does it use the Clean Flight target? That's a good question. I have heard about that, but I wasn't sure if Betaflight had support for dual gyros with sensor fusion. And in case anybody's confused about what that means, sensor fusion means you're adjusting, you're using both of the gyros at the same time and integrating their data to get better signal to noise ratio, as opposed to using one gyro or the other, which is how most dual gyro things work. I see I have a ton of questions coming into the Discord. I scrolled back in the Discord and didn't see that new questions were coming in. The first thing I am going to do is I'm going to go to, we're going to check out.
Okay, so my last video on the RPM,
oh my God,
we kind of talked about the fundamentals.
Stop, hold on. We're going to go and grab this video from Mark Spatz where he talks about what I did with the RPM filter. I'm being told it's around 14 minutes. Let's have a look here. How is let me make sure you guys aren't getting blasted out. Hold on.
Because it was showing such a great thing, performance to hit those. I'm fully aware that Joshua Bardwell just did a video on this, and I don't think he was.
Hey, first of all, let me just say, Mark, kudos. You putting your face in your stream as a key to YouTube success. I'm glad to see you doing it. You're a handsome man. Keep that up.
Was that impressed? He was gracious enough to upload his logs onto a group, and this is what his logs look like from that flight. So
never upload your logs, guys, because people will pick you apart. They'll tear you down. And no, I'm teasing. The truth is that if my logs reveal something I could have done better, that's science, and that's how it works. And I'm looking forward to Mark's advice. Let's see.
Something wasn't right. It looks like the RPM notch filters were on. I believe he turned off the gyro low pass altogether, and then the D-term low pass altogether. That's a little aggressive. I wouldn't do that. You can't turn off the D-term low pass, and you can see there's his pitch axis is a mess. So that's what he was getting on that. I really think you should take a second look at that. A lot of the stuff from my seat, how do I say this without? So the scientific method, the way it's based is you're not interested in people's opinion, right? The scientist doesn't go to another scientist and says, "Oh, what's your opinion about the nuclear fission?" Blah 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 blah. They say, "Show me the data, show me the evidence. Let's stick with that." Opinion, you can draw conclusions from data, but opinions don't matter. Conclusions, but those conclusions need to be based on data. So, with that, I think the data coming in was not the greatest, so the conclusions would probably be different. And I would.
Well, Mark is being very kind to me in his video. And by the way, thanks, Mark, for being here. Mark is actually UAV Tech in the chat. I'm open to having done something wrong. That's always a risk when I make a video about a new feature. In this case, I went to the Betaflight wiki and I followed the steps in Sugar K's tuning guide. Now, I followed the steps on the assumption that I had a pretty clean build. So there were some cases where Sugar K said, if you don't have an absolutely clean build, don't do this. But I did it because they're brand new Armatan Chameleons. They're really clean. And I have personally taken the low pass filters and the D-term filters up pretty high without smoking my motors. So I was like, okay, I'm going to treat this as a pretty clean build. But as far as disable, I don't understand most of the things I did. I just went through it line by line and put in exactly what Sugar K said to do. So it's possibly that there's something up with that and that my defaults weren't right. But that's what I did. If there's a better way to do it, I'm absolutely game to rerunning it. So there you go. That's my thought about that. I'm looking at some conversation here with Albert Kim and UAV Tech in the chat just to see if there's any input there. I do think that scientists do have opinions. I mean, here's the thing I say. I get what Mark is saying, that your subjective opinion about the data is less important than what the actual data says. So if you fly the quad and you go, well, it feels pretty clean, but the gyro seems noisy, then you got to be careful because your subjective opinion will often be biased and will mislead you. But every hypothesis starts with an expectation. That's what I like to say. Scientists are not completely objective observers. So the scientific method starts with a hypothesis. The temperature of a glass of water is related to the heat that you put into, I don't know what hypothesis is. If I do this, then I expect this outcome. Then you build the scientific test to try to test, and you actually ideally are trying to nullify the hypothesis. Your goal as a scientist is not to prove the hypothesis, but to disprove it. And you try as hard as you can to disprove it, and then at the end, if you fail, you feel confident in the hypothesis. That's the goal. But you start the hypothesis with an expectation. You go, I think if I filter this a little bit less, my prop wash will get better. I mean, so scientists are not completely objective. Just some thoughts there. Let's see. Wow, so many questions. UAV Tech points out the sugarcane stuff is basically the most aggressive you could possibly get. Yeah, and maybe it's too aggressive, although I will say my goal was to sort of test the RPM filter by going, yeah, let's get rid of all the filters. I don't care if I smoke a motor. And I didn't smoke a motor, except for there was one time when I accidentally turned off all the filters and didn't enable the RPM filter, and I flew a flight with literally no filtering at all, and thankfully I didn't smoke the motors, but yeah, I didn't put that in the video there. Okay. Let's see here. Do I have plans to build a 3D quad? Puck asks in the Discord. I have plans to try 3D on a micro quad. I've heard that, like the Eachine trash can, if you just enable 3D, that it kind of halfway works. I'm tempted to try that, Puck. I'm not sure I'm going to build a whole separate 3D quad, though. Puck says that the Marmot, the front of the cage, is offset to allow for access to the screws. That seems like the right thing to do, and I'm glad that Armatan seems to have done that. Yeah. Okay. Good. Swamp Dog asks, the other night you said that the FreeSky Rondo antenna was linear polarized. Does that mean you need to get another linear polarized antenna on the receiving end to get the best signal? That's an excellent question, Swamp Dog. It's a deeper question than maybe you realize, no offense. So let's talk about linear versus circular polarized antennas. So there's linear antennas and there's circular polarized antennas. Good, done. Glad we got that out of the way. Now, you got left-hand polarized and right-hand polarized antennas, which are circular, and you've got linear antennas. And the way I like to think about it is linear is right in the middle, and then left hand is one way, and right hand is the other way. And the antenna it receives the best when it's receiving a signal that matches its polarization. So the nice thing about left-hand and right-hand circular polarized antennas is that the polarization does not depend on the orientation of the antenna. I'm looking around for an antenna. Hold on. Let's see what I got. Hold on. I really want to know where my motors went. I'm going to be really disappointed if they've disappeared. Here we go. I got an antenna. Where did they go? Oh, I know where they are. I just remembered. Okay. So here's a circular polarized antenna, and the beauty of this antenna is that as I rotate that antenna, think of the circular polarization like a spiral. So as I rotate that antenna, I'm not changing the polarization at all. Albert Kim, you're right. Video in cannot be remapped. It's hardwired. Whereas with a linear antenna, I want you to think of the signal as kind of going like this, which means that as I rotate the antenna, now the polarization changes. Okay? So if I have two linear antennas, and one of them is like this, and one of them is like this, that's called being cross-polarized. That's the worst case, 90 degrees cross-polarized. And there's a huge amount of loss, of signal loss, when you have two antennas that are cross-polarized. Where like 15 or 30 dB of loss, an enormous amount of loss. Now, we don't notice that when we're flying indoors. When you're flying indoors and your antenna's on your goggle, let's say you're using linear antennas, which, hold on, we'll get there. If your antenna's on your goggles like this and your quad is sort of flippy-floppying around, you don't notice 30 dB of loss. And the reason for that is, number one, a linear antenna may not be perfectly designed and may not be like perfectly linear, but the other is that the signal is bouncing around the room, and as it's bouncing around the room, the polarization is changing, so there's usually some signal bouncing in at whatever sort of orientation it is. But the thing about linear antennas is that the worst case scenario is when the two antennas are 90 degrees out of polarization, you get a huge amount, 15, 20, 30 dB of loss in some cases, worst case. Whereas circular antennas, orientation doesn't matter. So the best case scenario is to have two circular polarized antennas on the quad. But what if the quad has a linear antenna like a micro quad with a little, like a tiny whoop? Well, then my opinion is that the best case is still to have a circular on the goggles. And the reason is that between a circular antenna and a linear antenna, there is a constant 3 dB of loss all the time, regardless of the orientation of the antennas. But my thinking is that if you have two linear antennas, the worst case is 15 or 20 dB of loss. Whereas with a circular and a linear, you always get 3 dB regardless of orientation, bounce, etc. So I personally keep a circular on my goggles all the time, regardless of whether the quad has a linear or not. However, if you fly a lot of tiny whoops, you may find that you get better results with a linear, and that depends a lot on the environment and the orientation of the antenna on the quad. You may get a little bit better results with 2 linears, but I think that a circular on the goggles, regardless of whether there's a linear or a circular on the quad, is the most reliable setup. So that's what I use. Bubby FPV asks, Wild Willie said that if you have really good antennas, you can have a trash receiver and get good range. Is this true? I see what he's getting at. The quality of the antennas has a lot to do with the signal that the receiver gets. The raw sensitivity of the receiver maybe is not as important. The big thing about the antenna is that it be tuned correctly and it have a good sort of coverage pattern and axial ratio. So I do think the antenna has a bigger effect than most people give it credit for. And that the receiver is, well, the receiver is important too, but let's see. Let's see. What else? Okay. We're caught up on the Discord. That's fantastic. Maybe 2 linear. Stephen Gibb says maybe 2 linear antennas at 90 degrees to each other. Yes, Stephen Gibb, that's a great idea. So if you are going to use linear antennas on your goggle, get 2 linears and put them at 90 degrees to each other in a diversity situation, and that will help minimize the polarization loss. What's in the mason jar? This is gin and tonic. There you go. Albert Kim, thank you for tech support in my chat. Albert is talking to somebody who has damaged the video input pad on his flight controller, and sadly, you cannot remap that. It's hardwired to the OSD chip, and there's no way to remap it. However, if you're really good with a multimeter, you probably can find like a little resistor or capacitor somewhere just by scrape it back a little bit from the lifted pad, find the trace, solder directly to the trace if you can, but get your multimeter and just feel around, and you may be able to find like a resistor or some other component that you can solder the wire to that may work. Bombay, no, it's Hendrick's gin. Hendrick's is what I typically drink when I'm drinking gin. Craft King says, send me your Discord link, Josh. Craft King, normally my Discord is open only to patrons. But you did just send me like a $40 super chat, so I kind of feel like you owed it. So Craft King, if you will reach out to me via email, I will send you the Discord link. Because let's be honest, I mean, patrons, it costs you a minimum of $2 a month or $24 a year to become a patron. So yeah, basically just paid me 2 years of patronage. I think you can be in my Discord server. You got it. Graham Stewart, does my wife not trust me with the nice glassware? What are you talking about, Graham? This is fantastic glassware. Down here in the South, mason jars are, we get those out for company. Let's see. How does a pagoda antenna have left or right polarization? I can't explain that. The thing is that polarization is really freaking like, it has to do with the signal comes out, but it's offset, and then it adds together, but the point is that you've got these 2 radiating elements, and then they're like offset to each other, and then that makes it be polarized. There you go. Bill Revenaugh asks about KV and cell count. Bill, I can give you a rule of thumb for what tends to work well, but there is no hard and fast rule. So my rule of thumb is that let's start with 4-cell. For 4-cell, typically around 2300 to 2700 kV is where I would shoot. You see a few motors that up at around 2800 kV that are designed for 4-cell, but to me that's usually a little high. What does it mean that it's a little high? Well, hold on. Let me give you the rest of the ranges. On 5-cell, my gut feeling is around 1900 to 21 or 2200 kV. On 6-cell, my gut feeling is around 1600 to maybe as high as 1900 kV. And then it's been so long since I flew 3-cell, I have no freaking idea. By the time you're down at 3-cell these days, you're usually on micro quads and you're spinning different. So we're basically, by the way, we're talking about 5-inch, maybe 6-inch props here, because the bigger the prop you spin, the lower the kV you're going to need to go. So for example, 4-cell, I said 2300 to 2700 kV. But if you told me you were running 7-inch props, I might drop you down to like 2200 kV. Okay. So what happens if your kV is too low? You just don't get a lot of thrust. Like if you take the Wizard X220HV, which is designed for 6S, and it's got like 1650 kV or something motors. I don't remember the exact kV. You can fly it on 4S, and it's okay. But when you hit full throttle, it's just not going to punch very much. It's totally flyable, though. So if your kV is too low, you just don't get a lot of power. If your kV is too high, you destroy your battery. Okay? Your battery just can't keep up. It just draws so much current that your battery goes, I'm dead now. But I got to point out, like, there's racers who are running 2500 kV motors on 5S, which means you just get crazy RPM at the motor, but it's an ultra light quad, and as a result, you don't draw as much current, and it works for them. But those are my general guidelines for what I look for in a motor. If your kV is too high, you get a lot of power, but you also suck a lot of amps and kill the battery. If you're gonna try to go high kV, then you need to build as light as you can and don't use an ultra high pitch prop. JMBB FPV says, Joshua, since long range is getting popular, I don't understand why Betaflight won't make use of proper GPS with the use of compass like iNav for accurate and reasonable return to home flights. I can tell you what the devs told me, JMBB, when I asked why Betaflight doesn't use the compass, and they said Betaflight is aimed kind of at mini quads mostly, and on mini quads you just can't get the compass away from the other electronics. There's just you're not going to take a 5-inch mini quad and put the compass up on a mast, and so the compass readings are basically useless on a mini quad because they're so noisy and dirty. It's just no good. So rather than build in the ability to use the compass, but then have it always be garbage and get in the way, the devs just said, screw it, we're just not going to do it. The thing is, Betaflight Return to Home works better for long range than it does for up close, because the further you are from home, the less you need the compass to approximate the home direction. It's only when you're flying in close that you really need the compass to know what direction it's moving. Hang on, I want to sneeze. There we go. Let's see. Lenny Gordon asks, I have a Fat Shark Dom V3 with True D. There is a weird, permanent, slow, top-to-bottom fuzz line that stays no matter how close or far the quad is. Any idea what causes this? Lenny, it could be something like your Wi-Fi. There could be an external interference of some kind, or it could be a defect in the goggles. What I would do in your case is look for commonality. So does it, if you always fly at home, take your goggles somewhere else and see if it still happens there. Try to pin it down to the location. If you got friends, put your module in their goggles. Put their module in your goggles. That's how you just got to start narrowing it down. That's the answer. DL Burdette would like a recommendation on an FPV simulator. So the two FPV simulators I like flying the most are Liftoff and the DRL simulator. Liftoff is, to me, it's fun. It has a good social aspect. It seems like a lot of people, if they're like, hey, do you want to jump in a multiplayer room, they're flying Liftoff. And of course, Liftoff put my house as a level, which you gotta dig that. What I really like from the DRL simulator, though, is that DRL simulator has the ability to race against other people's ghost laps. So they got a leaderboard, and I used to love doing this on other online games. I don't like multiplayer online. It's so there's real people, and you have to talk to them, and then if you do bad, then they know that you're bad. I don't like that. I like to sit in my living room and race against a leaderboard. And I still get the competition, but there's not the sort of real-time pressure. So DRL has the ability to load up a leaderboard and say, okay, I finished this race in 2 minutes. Now load up the next 5 fastest people and I want to race against them. And you can just work your way up the leaderboard. I really dig that. DRL has always had, I thought, decent physics. I don't know if they've announced it yet, so never mind. Their physics might be getting better soon. Even better. Okay. Anyway, so I would suggest Liftoff and DRL. I have to acknowledge Velocidrone. A lot of people who are pure racers love Velocidrone. And somebody I was talking to recently, I think he put it great. He said, Velocidrone flies like a racer wishes his quad flew in real life. Velocidrone doesn't necessarily feel realistic, but when you tweak the physics in Velocidrone, you can make a quad fly kind of amazing. And especially if you're like a hardcore racer, you can really get these crazy fast lap times. Personally, I've never liked the way Velocidrone flies. I'm so sorry to say that, because somewhere out there right now is a Velocidrone dev who's just dying inside a little bit. But every time I try to fly Velocidrone, and I do go back to it every now and then because so many people love it, I literally just cannot finish 2 turns on a race course. I cannot figure out why the quad doesn't fly right. So I just never, that's my experience. So let's see. I have ANFO Mofo. I talked about NeuroFlight earlier in the stream. You'll definitely have to go back, watch the DVR, and check that out. Why doesn't Betaflight put LQ and noise level for Crossfire in the OSD? Very good question, FPV Arborist. You can put LQ in the OSD. You just got to map it to RSSI. But a lot of people would like to see the noise level and the LQ, and Betaflight doesn't do that. That's a very good question, FPV Arborist. Betaflight certainly knows those values because it's telemetry, but as far as I know, they don't do that. So there you go. Let's see. Can you solder 2 VBAT wires to the same pad? Yes, absolutely. You absolutely can solder as many wires as you want to the same pad. Eventually, you'll pull so much current that you might burn out the pad. But as long as we're talking VTX, receiver, camera, that's not a risk. It's only if you're talking motors. So let's see here. Velocidrone Hero Psycho points out, on my Discord, he points out, Velocidrone works a lot better for older computers. That's worth mentioning. That's a very good point, Hero Psycho. Liftoff and DRL are pretty intensive. If you have an older computer or you don't have a high-end graphics card, you can turn the graphics down. But here's the thing about simulators. You always want to be getting the highest frame rate possible on a simulator. Like, I would say 30 frames per second is like not enough. I mean, it's flyable, but the physics actually get worse when the frame rate goes down. This is a little known fact. So I would say minimum 60 frames per second is what you really want to see. And depending on this, like if it's a Steam-based game, there's a way in Steam you can put a little, in the upper right corner of the screen, you can put a little FPS counter. But you want to see a minimum 60 FPS, and the more the better. If you can get 120, 200 frames per second, your simulator will actually fly more realistically. Even if you're not using like a G-Sync monitor, even if your monitor is only doing 30 or 60 FPS, internally the game will calculate the physics better and fly better at higher FPS. So if you have an older computer, a simulator like Velocidrone or FPV Freerider may be better because they're less processor intensive. Enoch FPV, I'm improving your message, Enoch. We're going to do a bunch of giveaways tonight on the UFDA Crew shit show. FYI, I don't usually cuss on stream. Don't miss it, folks. UFDA Crew is going on, I assume, after my stream, I hope. I didn't mean to stream over you guys. And Parmesan, right? That's what you guys say. Yeah. No. Steve M says for simulators, get 140 hertz monitors. Steve, it's funny you say that because I've been talking to some of the guys over at DRL and they agree. Like you think of 140 hertz monitors as being useful for like Twitch games, like FPS shooters, but actually they tell me that the physics are better if you have a 140 hertz monitor and a graphics card that's capable of driving the sim at 140 hertz. So I would say 60 FPS minimum if you're playing in a simulator. So That's to get good physics. Yep. Alrighty. Yep, I have an Joshua Owen. I do have an. As the ice melts, it'll make some more for me. Don't worry. TAC FPV, when does the shit show start? When does the UFDA shit show start? Because I'm streaming till 10. You guys going on at 10? I'll throw right to you. TAC FPV in the chat. TAC is a really awesome guy, and I've flown with him. He was at my house for a little while. He lives in Chattanooga. He's not too far from me. He was actually out in Orlando with us, and almost. Did you get into an episode, TAC? I know we shot some video with you, but sometimes people get shot and then they get cut out, for whatever reason. I hope TAC is in a couple of Rotor Ride episodes coming up because he's a cool guy, and apparently he's part of the UFDA shit show, and also has his own YouTube channel. So, Born Relentless FPV says, "Hey Joshua, how do I get on the Discord?" So, you guys, I'll just mention this since you asked. I got a Discord. See, look, here it is. Here's my Discord. In order to get on it, you got to be a patron of mine, basically. Every so often, I throw an invite to my email list, but it's mostly for patrons. Just a little something extra if you give me a few bucks a month. To be honest with you, I really don't do as much for my patrons as I ought to. My philosophy on Patreon has always been I just pour my heart and soul into making videos for everyone. And some people are like, geez, okay, fine, I'll give you $1. And at that point, it's like, I don't then go, oh, okay, let me just make a whole lot more content. I just make content for everybody, and I hope that some people want to reward me for that by becoming patrons. But there are people, I got a message from somebody, I won't name names, it's not important, but he was like, hey, dude, I wish you paid a little more attention to the patrons. And I'm like, sorry, I just try to pay attention to everybody equally. But I do have a Discord for the patrons as just a little bit of a way to say thank you to the people who support me. So, Born Relentless, if you just signed up as a patron, then go to the hashtag Patrons Welcome channel. Not that one. Go to the hashtag Patrons Welcome. It's right here. And there are instructions for how to do integration of your... You got to integrate your Discord and your Patreon account together. There's instructions right there. That's how you do that. Yeah, MC Creations, don't sweat it. You guys, if anybody out there if you're having, sometimes people are like, I'd love to support you, but take care of yourself, take care of your family. When you're rolling in dough and everything is going great, if you feel like throwing a couple of bucks my way, I appreciate it. Don't ever feel bad because you didn't support me. I'm doing good, and I just, it's all good. We all do what we can. That's what we do. Emil Bergeron asks, is it dangerous to run an FPV drone in the winter with snow? You can damage the drone, Emil. You can damage the drone. If it gets in the snow and it gets wet, it can short out. You're definitely going to want to use conformal coating to waterproof it, but at that point, it's not that big a deal. Let's see. Yeah, thank you, Tom Smith. JB has definitely gotten me in the air more than once. That's what I try to do. Devil Dog Saga, minimum for my Patreon is $2 a month. $2 a month. So, not that much. It does add up. Let's see. Nishant Pinto asks, what are your thoughts on the TBS Discovery frame? And since Nishant accompanied that with a wow $10 super chat, the super chat is super generous. I think is these American dollars, because I'm seeing a lot of $10 donations and I super appreciate it. It's amazing. Any thoughts on the TBS Discovery frame? Well, for $10, I will make up something for you. That's my price, by the way, $10. TBS Discovery. Oh, I mean, it's super old, right? Is it even like a modern frame? I mean, how big a... Yeah, I mean, it's not a mini quad frame. I think it's super old. And it's not a mini quad. I don't know. I'm sorry. You were probably hoping for more. Yeah, here we go. TBS Discovery. I mean, like, for example, here's all you need to know about this frame. Hang on. Oh, man, Trappy's going to be so mad at me. Here's all you need to know about this frame. Look at this GoPro. Do you see any up tilt? Okay. Look at this camera. What camera is that? So I think it's really... Oh, and look. Oh, my God. Look at what receiver is on this. That is not a Crossfire receiver. That is an Immersion RC 400 megahertz receiver. Holy crap. Which tells you how old this picture is because TBS hates Immersion RC now. Isn't it? Am I wrong about that, guys? Is that an Immersion RC receiver? Hold on. Am I wrong about that or am I... Does that... No. I can't tell. I'm looking in the chat to see if I'm right about this. That sure looks like an Immersion RC 400 megahertz receiver, doesn't it, guys? So, yeah. That tells you how freaking old that is. Because TBS does not like... It would not put... Trappy, you gotta update that picture, dude. So, I guess I don't think a lot about that frame because it's super old. And I'm not sure. I'm sure there's better stuff out there, though. There are better, Jeremy Countryman, there are better lighter frames out there now. Yeah, the thing is, if you want to do whatever that frame was designed for, there's probably a better design out today. Lighter, stronger, etc. Albert Kim, awesome. Albert, I'm going to throw you a super chat here. Throw you $10. Instead of the TBS Discovery, go for the Project 399 Super G Plus. Awesome. See, I just don't know a lot about quads that size. I'm going to pull this up. The Project 399 Super G Plus. I'm going to throw that to the chat here. Oh, see, yes. So is that for 7? That's for 7-inch. Yeah, if you're going 7-inch, there's a lot of good options out there. Yeah, this is more like what I would want to see. Thank you, Albert. I owe you $10, Albert. You really earned that super chat, not me. Cheesehead FPV. Wait, how do I give you money? Well, I don't like to rub it in, but it's this $sign right down here. You click that. Show your support. You can just throw a couple bucks at me. Yeah, appreciate it. I've heard mixed things, says Torquetastic. I've heard mixed things about grounding the signal wire on my ESC. I'm running your flight controller. There aren't even any dedicated signal ground pads. Yeah, signal ground is, in my opinion, optional if you're using an all-in-one flight controller. It is not mandatory. It's optional. Where am I? Got to get back on my own Discord here. Let's see. Do you think it matters? That's old. What? Where am I? That's Quad Camp. Oh, sorry. Wrong server. Livestream chat. Okay, here we go. Let's see. How safe is conformal coating? Asks Warman. Lots of warnings on the label. It's like, don't sniff it. Don't drink it. How safe is conformal coating? It probably causes cancer, like everything else in the world. It probably causes cancer. So, don't worry about it. If you really care, you get like a fan to vent the fumes away from you. So that's what to do. Jugsy says everyone should try FPV Air 2 on Steam. Actually, FPV Air 2, I tried it and it was a little bit of a hassle to get it working. It had a few glitches, but it actually flew pretty good. I didn't fly it a lot, but I thought it flew pretty good. FPV Air 2 on Steam. Definitely worth a look. Giunte is asking about how to save and restore configuration on Betaflight. And the answer to that is, if I just fire up my good old Betaflight right there, the answer to that is that you go to the command line and you type diff, and diff will output everything in the config that you changed from the defaults. What you then do is you hit save to file, and you save that to a text file. Okay? When you want to restore your configuration later, you go in and you open up that text file. Like this is a stored configuration of one of my builds. You select that, you copy it, and you paste it in. And you type save, which I'm not going to do because this is not actually the setup for this flight controller, but you type save and that restores your configuration. That's how you do it. Yeah, I keep my diffs. You can actually type diff all, diff space all is another thing you can do, which gives you a little bit, gives you all of your rate profiles. I don't mess with it because I usually don't have multiple rates, but diff all is actually what you should really type. And I have a bunch of those saved up, you know, all of my different aux modes and stuff. So, yeah. Diff all. Gabriel Sipala, you're right. It's diff all if you use multiple rate profiles or PID profiles. You need to type diff all. Helicopter asks, what would you consider for a noob on a stock tune first build? The quad doesn't have the authority I want and slides around, if that makes sense. It just feels wonky. Helicopter, if your quad feels like it slides around, the first thing I would suggest is that you raise P gain or you raise feed forward. Those are the two things I would do. Is Nurk here? Guillermo? Is Paul Nurkala here? What? Where's Nurkala? No way. Man. Speaking of DRL, if Nurkala is here, he is a television star. Pedikar says, don't you think TBS should just drop the Crossfire price instead of attacking or pulling out of stores? Thoughts? I mean, they can price it however they want it. That's their prerogative. And by the way, I should point out, they significantly dropped the Crossfire Nano receiver price in response to the competition with R9. It went down from like $40 to like, I think it's like $30. But and they also released the Crossfire Lite module, which does not have Bluetooth, but is like 50 or maybe $100. I can't remember what the price of the full module is. So they're competing on price. As far as TBS is attacking or pulling out of stores, I mean, I'm on record with not really agreeing with that. I'm on record with not really agreeing with that because I just don't agree with that. That's a good way to do business. But you know, that's a personal opinion. So, I mean, you take that for what it's worth. Propstu wants a plug for his channel and donated $25 in the super chat. I feel I'm torn about this, Stu. I really am. Because, you know, you gave me $25, so the least I can do is plug your channel. But I am a little worried. I really want to keep it focused on questions. So I'm going to plug your channel in appreciation for your super chat. But I'm not going to do that again. If anybody else asks for a channel plug, I'm not going to do that. Because I just don't want it to turn into a bunch of channel plugs, no matter how much money that might actually make me. So props to, in exchange for your $25 super chat. Props to YouTube. We're going to find your channel here. Here's props to on YouTube. He does vloggy stuff, diving skyscrapers.
Good morning.
Good morning, Stu. Gotta put a high pass on that. Cut that wind noise, Stu. Put a high pass filter on that mic. Just do it in post.
Drone fixed up.
High pass at like 100 hertz. It'll cut that wind noise. Still leave your voice. Still leave the bass in your voice. All right. Hey Stu, you got good production values. I'm picking on your audio, but that's a really nice production. Your channel looks good. 253 subs. Let's get Stu. Can we get Stu over 1,000 subs by the end of this stream? What do we think? How many people are actually on this stream? Right now we got 488 people watching the stream. Let's bump Stu up. 253 subs. I'm going to come back and I'm going to check him. Okay. That's the last time I'm going to plug somebody's channel in exchange for a super chat, though. We're not going to do that. Daniel Lopez, thank you, and Rotor Riot for bringing back my interest in drones. Thank you, Daniel. That's the goal. Cheesehead FPV says, I just gave $24.99. I don't see where it shows me. Cheesehead, I don't think I see a super chat from you, so I'm not sure that you actually did give $24.99. Do it again, Cheesehead. Just keep giving $25. No, I'm teasing. She said, I actually don't see a super chat from you. Devil Dog Saga asks, hey brother, 2 questions. Are you going to make a video on how to use the new filter on Betaflight 4.0 soon? Didn't I just make that video? The RPM filter? I think I already made it, Devil Dog. Check my channel. Second, my quad, when I barrel roll, it overshoots almost 2 rolls. Which rate is causing that? That is not a rate issue, Devil Dog. If it continues to roll, there's a problem with the quad. It may be a thing called gyro overflow. So I have a video about gyro overflow, and that may be it. Betaflight 3.3 gyro. Oh, sorry about that, guys. Gyro overflow detection. That is a thing that can cause that overroll. It could be a fail-safe. It's a little tough to figure out what's doing it, but it's definitely not your rate. Because I think what you're describing, Devil Dog, is that when the quad rolls, it's kind of out of control. Like it just goes shoo shoo. And if you center your stick, it would just ignore you. That's like a fail-safe or overflow detection locking you out. That's not like a PID or a rate thing. Pardon me. How do I get the Discord with Android? My goodness. My goodness, so many Discord questions. Is there a reason that my quad is drifty? TTFPV asks, is my quad is drifty? TTFPV, if you have a drifty feeling quad, raise P gain, especially on the yaw axis, or raise feed forward in Betaflight 3.4 and higher. Those are the two things I would suggest. Let's see. Steve M says, I use Git for building Betaflight targets and maintaining repos, but not configs. Steve, most people are not going to use GitHub the way you do, man. GitHub is a hell of a thing. Let's see. Jugsy says, have I tried using Git or similar for tracking your quad configs? A little how-to video would help heaps of people. Yeah, it would help me. No, I am not a GitHub user. The best I can do on GitHub is open a new issue and message the devs. I do not do anything with GitHub like for version tracking or anything. I'm not a GitHub user. Okay. Nico Nat says, learning about ham licenses, is that just for FPV or also for everyday flying? Nico Nat, if you are using 2.4 gigahertz control, like FreeSky, Spectrum, FlySky, and you are not using an analog video transmitter, you do not need a ham license in the United States. What will happen, Bubby FPV says, what will happen if you use 2.4 gig antennas on 5 gig receivers for your goggles? You'll get bad reception. That's the short answer. You'll get bad reception. FPV Air 2 on Stop Motionless is the sim that was mentioned. FPV Air 2. Yep. So let's see here. Is there something, Jolly LTF, is there something that can show me what props to use for different motors? Jolly LTF, the question is like, yeah, like if you're doing 5-inch props, then any 2306 or 2207 sized motor is going to be fine. Once you get outside of the 5-inch range, the best thing to do is to go to something like rotorbuilds.com. Go to rotorbuilds.com and look up somebody else's build and use the props and motors that they're using. That's the answer. And then you will start to pick up an expectation. Oh, I see. 1407 motors. Look at the motor size, look at the kV, and the battery voltage. Those are the three variables. And that ties into the ideal prop size. So that's what I would do. That Chris asked, what's a good frame size to keep under 250 grams? That's a tough one, that Chris. I know that Tommy originally targeted the Acrobrat as being under 250 grams, but he found that you really had to struggle to get the build under 250. So I would say something like the Acrobrat, which is a 3-inch quad, but it's a pretty heavy 3-inch quad. It's kind of designed for heavy freestyle. That's kind of you're not going to get under 250 grams much bigger than that. So I'd say it's possible to build a 3-inch under 250 grams, but it's a struggle. If you're down in the 2-inch and under range, it's much easier to get into the under 250 grams. Eves Kabesi says, Joshua, your shopping list links to the Unify Pro RPSMA. If I bought an antenna with an SMA connector, did I get the wrong VTX? Yeah, so you have to buy an antenna with the matching connector for your VTX. So if you buy the VTX with an RPSMA, you have to buy an antenna with an RPSMA. You can get an adapter if you want to. It's not a big deal to get an adapter. Aethix, would I consider building a 7-inch? I would not. However, I do have a 7-inch ready to fly from Multicopter Builders coming in the mail soon to try out. So that'll be fun. I am not building one. The next build I'm going to do is going to be my Beast class, which I have been meaning to get started on ever since I got back from Orlando. And I've just been so busy with everything that I haven't gotten to it yet. Albert Kim has a 3-inch frame that can get you under 250 grams. And Albert links it. Tomoquad's crossbow. Let's just give... Albert's being super helpful, so I will definitely plug that. Albert, this frame has certainly reminiscent in a lot of ways of the Acrobrat. I'm curious about the weight of the crossbow. That's Albert's frame, by the way. He's the designer. I'm curious about the weight of the crossbow relative to like the weight of the Acrobrat, because I know that Tommy really struggled to get the Acrobrat under 250, and I wonder what you're doing differently to do that. So I'd love to hear more about that if you want to put that in the chat. Germ 357 says, what feed forward setting do you use? Germ, I usually use about 100 feed forward on pitch and roll, and maybe a little higher than that on yaw. Wicked FPV asks, what's the best 433 megahertz system in your opinion? I don't know the answer to Dragon Link. Immersion RC, I only know 2 of them. I've just said their names. There you go. Can you get battery audible alert working on the Nirvana, says Petikar. Oh, I don't know why you wouldn't, but I haven't actually tried that, and maybe there's something about it that makes it not work. I mean, does it work any different than a normal audible alert? Like, I have a video on how to set up audible alert in OpenTX, so presumably it's like the same. Albert points out that the crossbow frame is about 25 grams lighter than the Acrobrat frame, so that helps to make up the difference and get it under 250 grams. Oh, you guys are just looking at Albert's frame this whole time, not my beautiful face. Rocket says, do you know what's up with OpenTX 2.3? There seems to be minimal progress. I don't know what's going on with OpenTX 2.3. It's an open source project, so the devs work at their own. I mean, they don't have a boss and no one tells them what to do. They work mostly for free, although there are cases where vendors will pay to help expedite development, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I also am eager for OpenTX 2.3 to come out. I was eager because it would mean I could finally put OpenTX on my Nirvana. However, the Nirvana support has been pushed back to 2.4. And, so Nirvana, OpenTX not coming to Nirvana anytime soon, unfortunately. There you go. Furious FPV True DX, any thoughts on it? FOG FPV asks, I am planning on testing the True DX this weekend. There's a construction site nearby that I think will be unoccupied. If the weather cooperates, I'm going to do some multipath testing. I'm waiting for you may recall in the last round of testing I did that my Owl RC was messed up, and I'm waiting for a new Owl RC to come in the mail. But I'll be testing it. I will say that the freaking little roller mouse ball, what were you thinking? What were you thinking, Furious? That thing is so... It's... why? The mouse ball drives me crazy. But that's not why we're all going to look at... Or it's not what we care about. It's the freaking performance. And if you can get rapid fire performance from the True DX, that's going to be very exciting. But I won't know until after this weekend. Somebody asked, I can't see who it was, somebody asked about not getting his trash can to arm. And the answer to that is, I have a series of videos. Betaflight won't arm. Introduction. Here's the very first one.
Writing's not that easy. No.
Let's not watch a commercial, okay? Betaflight won't arm. Introduction. I'll paste the link in the chat. If your quadcopter will not arm, go to this video. This video will get you started, and then there's a whole playlist which will actually, for each of the reasons why it might not arm, there's a video in the playlist. So first watch the introduction, then watch the video that relates to your reason why it won't arm. So there you go. Joseph Dawson, Get FPV support is generally very good. It's not the weekend, sorry. So if you have submitted a ticket to Get FPV and not gotten an answer pretty quickly, then I would say hit them up on Facebook and somebody will be like, oh shit, and get right to you. So yeah. Am I going to test the True DX with a Dock King? Island Carnivores. I don't plan to do that. I don't plan to test the Dock King anymore. I tested the Dock King two separate times, maybe 3. And each time I got worse results than just by putting the module in the goggles. And I tried it with 2 different Dock Kings. And I finally was like, okay, I'm done. So, did I ever get a Tyro 79 Viper FPV? No, I didn't. I got a Tyro 99, but I ended up not building it. And I got the Tyro 99 right about the same time that I was doing my budget build with Rotor Riot. And I was like, well, I'm not going to put a bunch of effort into doing a build series for the Tyro 99 if I already did this build series for my build. But we've really struggled to keep the parts in stock. And it's unfortunate. And I've kind of thought lately, I kind of wish I had maybe just done it for the Tyro 99 because at least it would be in stock most of the time. So, but no, I haven't. The Tyro 99 and the Tyro 79, it's a shocking that somebody could build a whole quadcopter for $79. But geez, guys, think about the compromises that are being made and the electronics and the motors to get it down to that price point. It's ridiculous how cheap these things are. And it's great that you can get in the air, but wow, they're so chintzy, you know? Yeah. Albert is, oh my God, are you for real? Wow. Just leaving that up. How long was that up there? Albert's earning his advertising on the stream by helping out in the comments. He deserves every bit of it. Yeah, Kyle D. Tomoquad should have sent me a $25 super chat. Oh, man. Joseph Dawson ordered the wrong product. They have no option to cancel the order. No. And their shipping is so fast, it probably shipped, but you could just return it. Just contact support. If you need to, Get FPV has an $800 number, an 800 number, and you can just call them or whatever. Yeah, do what you got to do. Newbie FPV just became a patron. How do I get permission to chat on Discord? You should have gotten the invite to the Discord when you sub to Patreon. If not, contact me and I'll send you an invite, and then we'll take it from there. Chris Quad, the RR episode you did with Stingy swapping modes was the best episode in ages. Just saying thank you, Chris Quad. We really enjoyed that, although it was also terrifying. Luminaire, Todd Tube, you have a Luminaire TX5GS that you can't get smart audio working. It has a TX and an RX. The answer to that is that you think you should use the TX pad, but you actually need to use the RX tab. It's backwards. The Luminaire TX5GS, the TX and RX are labeled opposite of how you expect them to be. So normally you would do it from TX on the flight controller to RX on the VTX, but it's TX on the flight controller to TX on the VTX. Todd Tube, that's the answer to that one. I just happen to know that one. Guillermo wants a series of videos where I make a review of tuning of quad and quad setup of pro pilots. That's interesting, Guillermo, the ability to fly somebody else's quad and comment on it. The thing is that the pros all fly different stuff that, like we did the episode, the Rotor Riot episode where we tried each other's rates and stuff. That's kind of like what you're asking for, Guillermo. So that episode's on Rotor Riot. Stephen Matthews asks, hi, Joshua. I'm a YouTube Premium subscriber. Am I supporting you? Yes, you are, Stephen. Every time you watch one of my videos, I get a little bit of your YouTube Premium subscription. So, yep, no worries there. What are your... Chaos, the stream is so chill. Thank you. I'm going to be done soon because UFDA shit show is going to be starting. If anybody from UFDA, I mean, are you starting at 10, guys? Is that when you're starting? Because I'll just throw all these guys over to you, but you got to let me know. So comment, message me on Facebook or something, or comment in the chat if you're going to be starting up, and let's see what the deal is. UFDA, let me just look and see if I can find you. YouTube, where is it? 5 hours? Are you for real? Do you stream for 5 hours? Wow, are you for real? Old Gray. Oh, is it on Old Gravy Legs or is it on? Let's see. Let's give some more plugs to people while we're at it. Here's the UFDA Cruise Patreon. 4 patrons, $34 a month. I mean, I would sub you, but with only 4 patrons, I'm not actually sure are you even doing it? Let's see. Where is the shit show live stream? Is it on Gravy Legs channel? Let's see. No, I don't think it's on Gravy Legs channel. Somebody post it. Where is it? UFDA Crew channel. Where is it? Show it to me. Show it to me. Where's the... Somebody link it. UFDA crew. Here we go. I got to find... Oh, yeah. There you go. 809 subs. We got to go back. Hang on. I got to go back and I got to check. Where was it? Propstu. How are we doing? Propstu. 253 subs. What's he up to? 315. Well, you know, Prop A, it's just $25 divided by 100 subs. Due to the math. Here's the UFDA crew. These guys are apparently streaming tonight. You streaming in like... you better be streaming in like 1 minute because I'm about to throw to you. It got banned. I don't know about that. Yeah. Props off. Okay, Props off asks... You can make this the last... question. Props off asks, is Rotor Riot store reliable now? So let me just make sure everybody's on the same page here. The Rotor Riot store is now run entirely by Raceday quads. The gist of it is that Rotor Riot never really ran their own store. The store was run by a company called Lauren International. It's the same company that ran the flight test store. And in fact, a lot of the people running the store were flight test employees who are running the customer service and stuff. And the best way to put it is that a lot of the people involved didn't know how to run a store. Nobody at Rotor Riot was really an expert at running a store, and it didn't seem from my perspective like anybody was really excellent at it. Everybody was good in some ways. Nobody was terrible, but just collectively, nobody was great. And as a result, there were a lot of deficiencies. There were some customer service situations where people didn't get good customer service just because people slipped through the cracks. There were other times that things were fantastic. And it's what makes it so hard to talk about this, because I don't want to give the impression that just, oh, they were terrible. But there were ways in which it fell short and nobody could fix it. Because over here we've got Rotor Riot, over there we've got Lauren, over here we've got Flight Test, and everything you wanted to do required a conference call with 17 people on it. And so finally Rotor Riot was like, look, we're just going to run our own store. Well, it turns out that nobody at Rotor Riot actually knows really how to run a store. By the way, again, I don't want to take anything away from the people who are doing great work. Like, for example, I specifically want to call out Jeff Orta, Vortex, who has been kicking ass at certain aspects of running the store. But at the same time, running a store is this massive, massive undertaking that involves not just being good with inventory and stocking and customer service and fulfillment, but hiring employees and management. And at the end of the day, my perception of what happened is that Rotor Riot went, look, Raceday Quads is already amazing at this. Let's just ask them to do it for us. And that's what happened. So, is the Rotor Riot store reliable now? Yes. If you have had great service from Raceday Quads in the past, you will get that exact same service from the Rotor Riot store now. And you might ask, well, why don't I just shop at Raceday Quads? Well, for the same reason you use my affiliate links. If you want to support Rotor Riot, and many people do, some people don't, fine, that's your prerogative. If you want to support Rotor Riot, you can shop at the Rotor Riot store. You're supporting them, and you'll get the same great service that you expect from Raceday Quads. All in all, it's just a plus. So, okay. That's going to do it. I hear that the UFDA shit show is going to start soon. So I am going to get off the air. I'm going to get out of here. And I'll be back tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Sorry, people in Europe. I'm sorry. Maybe I'll do one during the day. But I'll be back tomorrow. I'm not going to post any video tomorrow morning. It'll just be another live stream. And we'll be back and we'll do it again. And, we'll see what happens. But that is going to do it for this stream. I'm signing off. It's 10 o'clock. Go over to the UFDA channel where did someone post the link? Because if you guys are seriously streaming tonight, now's your chance to get like 400 viewers. Throw up a link. I'm about to sign off. Get it up. Somebody, tack. Gravy leg. What can you do? Post it up there. I'm going to approve it. I'm waiting for it. Aaron O'Neill says, help me, please. Aaron, email me. I'll help you. I'll do my best. Still no link to the UFDA. Post the link. Nope. There it is. Boom. Show. What is it? Are you guys? Here it comes. I'm tuning in right now.
Welcome to the shit show.
Oh
We got
my
13
God!
watching. Hell yeah!
They're here.
13.
They're here.
Let's tell Bardwell that we're fucking live.
How's everybody's audio?
Yeah,
right,
you
go
know what?
tell
I know
Bardwell
you're
that we're
live
live.
because I'm streaming you right now.
Bardwell. Paging Dr. Bardwell.
Paging Dr. Bardwell. Tell Bardwell to come drink with us too.
Fuck yeah.
What's up, Spider? AA Ron, our dog.
All right, guys, I'm out. I'm out.
Donnie.
Get on over there.